it's so funny to hear, and every parent's heard this is like when, so like that guy yells, "Move your feet." So like in an OHL rink, and there's not a lot of people there, so the kid probably heard it. Not that he know it was his dad, but oh, move my feet. I forgot about that part.
Yeah,
I
right.
thought you right. That's a
Thanks,
rebuttal.
Dad.
It's like, Dad, thank you for reminding me from 100 feet away to move my feet, because that's probably what's stopping me from playing. Move my feet. Or you get someone that the parents that yell shoot. Like I don't mind if fans do it because that's what fans are about. But when mom and dad say shoot, it's like, oh,
But you know what it is for me? It's if you yell
go.
it, if you're yelling stuff like as a fan, like so. Okay, for example, if I remember when I was a kid, my mom never said anything, but she might give the odd like "get him, Eric," or my dad, if I'm like on a breakaway out of excitement, might just like have an outburst of some sort. It's when you're doing it as like a correction
Yep.
mechanism.
Or you think that you're listening to what you're
Yeah,
saying.
yeah. It's like
Like I love it when they say go, go.
yeah. Oh,
It's like, oh, okay.
I know. I don't understand. Like
Or you shot it right at the goalie. So the rebuttal on that is like the goalie's allowed to try too.
yeah, 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 yeah. I know. I
It's
know.
not the biggest net in the world.
I can't because there's so many parents. It's such a common thing from parents, and I just don't know why you're doing that. Like I don't because you look like an ass. Number one, like I said, there's the odd like excitement outburst that is understandable, but if you're like that consistently yelling things with like the intention of it being corrective,
Or you're
it's like
frustrated.
yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
like I don't know. And on top of that, just remembering from the player side, it makes it really difficult to play when you know someone like that is watching you because it's not just the yell; it's that you know there's a conversation to follow.
Yeah. Well,
So
that's what I was gonna say. If you can do that in the rink, then the car ride home ain't gonna be
the
fun.
car ride home, man,
And you're
like the car
probably talking about hockey a lot.
the car ride home, dude. It's like we've talked about this before, but it's like there's nothing worse as the younger you are, especially, than like getting in the car after and just getting carved for like I'm a kid, like I'm just playing, man. Like I just want to play, you know? And I was saying this, I had a kid yesterday, a young kid, kind of related, that came to try the treadmill for the first time, and he's 7 years old. And so I told the dad, like, he's too young to be on this. But I always give the caveat of if the kid can handle it fine, then whatever. So the kid ended up handling it fine. And the dad asked me afterwards, so like you think this is good, like he should do it? And I said, well, no, like he shouldn't do it because I'm not going to sit here and say it's worth you paying to come here to do this because he's not going to get the correction part because he doesn't care. So like having said that, if he likes it, he wants to do it, and you want to pay for it, then that's your decision, you know. But from a correction standpoint, like it would be better investment for the older kid because he can pay attention. My point of that is for the kid, the 7 year old, like he just wants to skate. Like he just wants to hop on and skate, right? As you get older, there's a way to start talking about, the lessons to learn without it being like, as the kid, my God, my dad's gonna grill me on the way home. Like that's just not fun to have that feeling when you're playing a sport. There's a way to have that conversation that can be constructive without it being like, my dad is doing everything he can to make sure I'm the best player I can be and all like that. It just gets annoying, it gets irritating, it gets hard to play. It gets hard to play when you know that person is watching you because you know that it's going to come with the yelling and screaming maybe, but it's also going to come with the dissecting of every single thing. And it's like, man, I have 22-year-olds in here that don't think that critically about everything they do. You, as the dad, you don't think about anything that critically. Like you don't think about the things that critically, you know? So it's like having that expectation on your kid that like every little movement, every little thing is like, let's analyze it, let's scrutinize it, let's just pick it apart all the time. It's like you don't even do that as yourself, dad. You don't do that. And now you're like grinding this expectation on me, and it just comes out in those forms: the video, the barking, the car ride home, those kinds of things. And it's just really important that you can be aware of how you're behaving as a parent. Because a lot of times you just get, like anyone else, you're just mindless about your behavior. You're not thinking about the repercussions because you're just caught up in whatever you're thinking. Um, when you just let your mind race and you don't have any self awareness. But it's important. Like I remember that as a kid, man. Like you get somebody who's judging every single little thing that you're doing. That's all you think about when you're a little kid. You know, you can't even go play now. And little can still mean 16 at your first OHL camp.
No,
Like you're still just a kid, man.
so dude, it's so funny. So that's what I was gonna say. It's like I couldn't imagine. This is why I think this podcast is helpful for a lot of people, or maybe it's not, because I couldn't imagine having my kid go to one of these camps or playing in this league without like totally naive, or even a little bit naive. Like so for my, I played in it and I coached in it and I trained players and teams. I trained in some teams, and I've been involved in the Ontario Hockey League and pro and stuff for a long time. So I see exactly how it goes. When you have your own kid, it's a little bit, your perspective changes a bit because you worry about your kid or you care about your kid. And, you know, there's no way as clear minded as I was going into it when he was drafted and all that stuff in his first couple of years. As clear minded as I was, it was still like not confusing, but it's like eye opening sometimes. And that was like the first thing I was going to say is like for someone that parents and families that have never dipped their toe in this for real, it's got to be a shocker. Like because here's I was just looking at a couple things. Like if you're a 16-year-old or 17-year-old kid, OHL, college, junior B, whatever, what you'll notice right away is, you know, so first of all, you're not in your home center most likely. So you drove however many hours to this new place that you're excited to go about. So I'm going to just talk about the OHL now or college because it's like this the highest levels before pro, and it's the next step to becoming a pro. So you walk into this place wherever it is. It could be 8 hours away or 3 or whatever, and you're walking into everything is unknown. You think you might know, but everything's unknown. The arena's unknown. The coaches, the players, you don't know anything about this league. It's your first time. So first thing you see as a young guy is, especially if you're a 16-year-old, you're seeing guys 19, 20 years old. That's a gap. And 19, 20 years old physically, even if you are a 6'2", 6'3" kid, you're probably built, you're probably not the thickest guy, right? So you're seeing someone that's 3, 4 years old or mature. That right there is such a huge gap. And it could be your mental block for the week, for the camp. It could be the thing like that's you're in awe of someone. So on Charlie's team this year, the 6'5" defenseman, he was there last year, Chandler. And then they've got an import. So think about that. You're competing with a kid from Sweden, right? Drafted to the Vancouver Canucks. 6'6", 225, huge. Huge. So you can imagine being a 16-year-old kid? That's intimidating. So you see a whole bunch of guys like that are 3, 4 years ahead of you physically and played hockey that much longer. That's intimidating. So both from a parent and a kid's standpoint. So that's your first eye opener. It's like, okay, these guys are big and strong, right? And then the next reality is you think like no matter what round you're drafted or invited or free agent, whatever, as soon as you do your fitness testing, and there's a lot of good big players. So, and I remember my first one. It was like, okay, this is I'm a young guy here. Hope I can just fit in, you know. So I did my best, right? So then the reality of how many good players they are just at this camp. So you think even if you're, I remember Charlie going. I remember when I was, me and Charlie were picked one pick apart. So Charlie was a second rounder, and you know, you sit there as a second round, you know, you have to earn your spot, but you sit there, you know, it's gotta not easy, but it's yeah, it's yours to lose basically if you do well. You go out there and you go, that was a 7th rounder there, that was a 9th rounder, that was a 5th, and you just sit there and go, there's a lot of players here, and everyone's good. And now it works its way through, but you realize how fast how many players are out there and how many good players are out there. And it's like, wow. So I know, like, parents, you're just so as you're watching, you're sitting there going, okay, I don't know if he's doing that well, or is he? Is he sticking out? So it's like, you're like, for parents, you're just sitting there concerned about every little thing, right? And the players, it's like, it's the hardest level you've ever played against. And some guys have the transition; they can just get in there and just go do their thing. That's, I think, it's more of a confident thing. But then the next reality that you really realize very quickly is there's only a couple spots here. The truth is, there's only a couple spots. And in those spots, when you really start getting into it, it's like, where do I fit in on these spots if I do? And it's like, doesn't sound that attractive, you just to get to the team. So, anyways, you walk into a new city, you walk into a new rink, you're no new coaches, you don't know people, and it's actually an eye opener. Like, because thinking about it is one thing, being there is another, and you can't just get up and quit.